we are recording.
Okay, great. Well, thanks everyone for joining us today for the webcast of Sage Enterprise Intelligence. My name is Olivia, and I'm the Regional Account Manager for SEI in North America. And I'm accompanied by my colleague Nima, who's the Product Specialist here with us today and going to be the one doing the demonstration of the software. And of course, Travis is here as well, and he's the Strategic Account Manager with Sage for the SEI product. So before we get into the actual demo, I'm just going to go over a few PowerPoint slides for those of you who have never seen SEI before, which I don't believe any of you have. So, of course, today you're looking at Sage Enterprise Intelligence, and it's a self-service business intelligence solution that's aimed to do a few things. And the first is to reduce the time you're spending on data analysis and reporting. The second is to empower any user, really, to analyze and report on their own data without having to rely on anyone else in the organization. So whether you're an end user or a more technical user, the goal of the solution is really just to be easy to use for everyone. Also, SEI is aimed to simplify and accelerate sharing of information, and there's a multitude of ways to do that to increase visibility amongst your enterprise. We have a very effective distribution module in the software, which Nima will show you a little bit later on. Last but not least, an important point to mention is that SEI has been engineered for excellent performance. If you have large volumes of data, you have no need to worry about that. SEI is fully equipped to handle those volumes of data and perform well. A key thing to keep in mind with the software is that it's one comprehensive, easy-to-use business intelligence solution, and it consists of 3 interfaces. We start with the web, we have the mobile, and we have the Excel add-in. So starting with the web here, again, very easy to use with an intuitive user interface. We want to make it simple for pretty much everyone to use it. It's integrated with Sage 300, and we do deliver reports right out of the box, which I'll show you on the next slide. However, you can also access any other data source with SEI. So if you have a legacy system or a third-party application, such as a CRM system or what have you, you can access the data from those systems as well and analyze and report on it within a common interface. Again, we have the pre-built templates, which I'll show you on the next slide. It's very easy to share information, as I mentioned previously. Nima will get into more detail with the options we have for distribution in the software. It is secure. It's very easy to set up KPIs and build dashboards to give you a global overview of what's going on within the enterprise. You can drill down to the transactional data, again, very easily and quickly to do that. We have a bit of data entry capabilities as well when it comes to budgeting and forecasting, so you can actually enter data into SEI and, if you want to, even push it back to your Sage 300 ERP. And we also have OLAP capabilities. So for the consolidation of data and to optimize performance, there's the ability to build data cubes within SEI, and we actually offer 2 of those out of the box for Sage 300, one for sales and one for finance. So these are some of the out-of-the-box templates that we offer for Sage 300. So day 1, this is what you're getting right out of the box. You can start using it, slicing and dicing the data, analyzing your reports, et cetera, et cetera. But as mentioned, you're not limited to this. It's very easy to build new templates on other data sources, or if there's anything custom that you have in your Sage 300 system, it's very easy to start analyzing and reporting on that data as well. And we give you the tools to do that with a little bit of training. The second interface we have is the mobile, and it's pretty self-explanatory. It really allows you to access anything you've set up, so any kind of report, dashboard, et cetera, that you've set up in the web interface, you can have access to from any mobile device. It's an HTML5 website, so you can even access it from a desktop if you want to do that. You can analyze the real-time data. It's secure, so it's all based on the user rights that have already been set up. You can use some of the features of SEI in the mobile interface, such as filtering, dragging and dropping. You can do some drill down as well. The only limitation is that you can't build anything new in the mobile interface. It's really a view all type of option. Then we have the Excel add-in, and this is what all of our customers are using today for their financial reports specifically. Although you're not limited to just the financial data, you can use it to access any data that you have. This is going to eliminate any manual entry, manual data entry, if that's what you've been doing. It's probably our most comparable piece to the Sage Intelligence product, which several of you may be familiar with. It's a live connection from within Excel to your database. Again, you can access multiple data sources with it. You can start building reports, so your income statement, balance sheet, cash flow, etc. Really easy to do with the Excel add-in. It allows you to drill down, consolidate multiple data sources. You can have multi-currency, and we offer advanced Excel pivot capabilities as well. But Nima will show this all to you throughout the demo. So I'm going to pass controls over to him. And
participant,
take it away.
and right-click on my name.
Where are you?
Lower down.
There you are. So just one thing to note is that if anyone has any questions, please feel free to type them into the chat box. We will be leaving some time for questions at the end of the presentation, so no worries there. But just so that you don't forget the questions as you go, please feel free to type them into chat.
All right, thank you, Olivia. So, hi everyone. We're going to go through the demonstration of SEI and the 3 different interfaces we were just talking about. The first one, the main interface, is the web interface. As you can see, I've opened up one of my browsers. I chose Internet Explorer, and I go to a web link, and here I see the SEI login page. Now, for this presentation, we're going to log in as the admin user so that all the buttons and all the reports are available to us. The layout here, what you see, is very similar to Microsoft Office 2007 and newer. So the top bar is a ribbon bar with several different tabs. Whether you're an administrator of the software or more of an end user, you may work in different areas. You also have the file menu here, which you can do your personal user settings, change your passwords, and manage several things of your preferences for your login. On the left-hand side here, we have what we call the command center. The command center is where, as Olivia mentioned, all those out-of-the-box reports are included. So this is the Sage 300 environment that I have on my computer. So you can see we have several different accounts payable, accounts receivable processes. We have several different finance processes and sales analysis and so on and so forth. And we're going to actually use these today to do the demonstration. So, for example, if I go ahead and open up what we call a view is called is like something like a worksheet or a chart or different types of things, and I'll show you different types of views. The first view we're looking at looks a lot like an Excel pivot table. So there are grouping abilities, different columns available, and the ability to pivot, and of course you can filter and all of that. Now the key thing here to note is that this is in real-time information. So first of all, where am I pulling this data from? I have the SAM Ltd and SAM Inc. databases that we all get when we get Sage 300 as a test. That's what we're using today. So my data in those databases are in 2019 and 2020. Now once you drill down, you'll see that if I drill down my grouping fiscal year, we'll go to my next grouping, my fiscal period, which is written in numbers, not the actual month name. So you can see the breakdown of the $52,000 in sales in 2019 is now broken down by the periods that I had a transaction. So if I don't have any numbers between period 2 and 5, it's because I've had no transaction. But most of you have transactions every month, so you would see 1 through 12 right here in the grouping fiscal period. Now what happens if you drill one level further? Well, there's no more grouping, so the software right then and there decides that you are now reading the data, raw data as is shown in the database. So we'll drill down and we'll see the background color turns white. We'll get some column information such as customer number, location code, and document number. And then we'll see that there was actually 4 transactions that took place in the first month. All the invoice, the document numbers are here, and the related customer. Now, this is one way of looking at your data. Now, as an end user, you may be very interested to, change this look and feel. Maybe what's given to you out of the box is a good start, but it's not exactly what you need. So that's where this software really excels. So you can drag and drop your fields in the groups, pivots, and columns, and build a report as you wish. So if I scroll down here on the right-hand side, we have a box called Dimensions and Measures. The dimensions and measures are the fields that come from Sage 300 because this is a Sage 300 template. So order number is all your order numbers. Territory is your territories if you're using that field. Item number is all your product numbers, right? And so on and so forth. And then if we scroll down a little further, we'll start seeing measures. Measures are those things that are like amounts, quantities, percentages, and so on and so forth. So you see I have 5 different measures which total up at every level of grouping that I have. However, dimensions like customer number, location code, and document number cannot group up at a higher level unless you give it a very specific calculation to do. Generally speaking, though, it is a text or a number or a code, so there's really no operation to do when you group it for 2019, like what should you show for document number. Now, keeping that in mind, we may want to decide to group this differently. So instead of going fiscal year, fiscal period, and then nothing, we'll actually drag and drop the customer number field here. So what you'd expect to see is a 3rd level of grouping, a 3rd level of breakdown, and maybe I'll select another month, like period 9. Now I can see the breakdown across 4 different customers. So obviously my Stephen Kershaw made the most sales that year. That customer had the most sales, followed by the ACME Plumbing, right? And now you can actually drill down and get to the lowest level. It's no longer used as a column because it's used as a group, so you don't need to have it in both places. Okay? So then the next thing you really want to do is maybe look at the report in a completely different manner altogether. You may want to compare 2019 numbers to 2020. Well, right now, the way that you're doing it is, well, you've grouped it by 2019 and 20, and that's great, so you can see the totals, but you can't really have a breakdown by period or by customer number. So we're going to change this up really easily. I'll drag and drop customer number here, so it's my 2nd level grouping. Maybe I can even get my item number in here. There you go. And I'll put my fiscal period just as a column. I no longer need to group my data by period. So my fiscal year is still there, which is great, but now I want to see a list of all my customer numbers comparing their data from 2019 and 2020. That's called the pivot. So we'll drag the fiscal year into the pivot, and now you'll see the breakdown, how it works. You'll notice that all the measures, whether it's sales returns, net sales, cost of sales, or quantity sold, have been duplicated on the screen, one for each year of operation. Right? So you're going to see different values broken down across the 2 years. You may not be interested in keeping the location code and document number. You can put those at the grouping level, and we can actually remove the document number if we wish. So now you see a breakdown. Well, here's the comparison. For San Diego Bargain Mart, we had $7,000 of sales in 2019, but in 2020 we had $10,000, simply by pivoting the report. Okay? Yes, you can still drill down here as well. So you drill down and you see for this San Diego Bargain Mart, what were the 4 items that were sold in the 2 years? Okay, so the mini fluorescent bulbs were not sold at all in 2019, but if I scroll right, you'll see that they were sold in 2020. So it really breaks it down for you, and again, for the columns that you wish. If you wish to add more columns, you simply come to the measures section and you drag and drop something like profit and profit percentage. If the end user is ever stuck and they don't have the field that they're looking for in this list, the end user has 2 options. They can ask their administrator to add it for them in the design process, which I'll just show you really briefly, or they can actually have the option to add their own user calculated columns. So they can actually create their own columns. They're never limited or stuck to move forward with their reports. So you see I have profit and profit percentages. Luckily we had those fields there. Those get duplicated for the year 2020 as well. The next thing we want to do, when we did a pivot, we kind of lost our totals, the total where it combines 2019 and 2020. So what we want to do now, I'm going to click Worksheet Properties, show the totals in the front, and we'll say, show me my totals of my sales. So you see now a new section is getting created called Total, which combines the 2019 and 2020 numbers. So the 7,000 in 2019 sales and the 10,000 in 2020, that gives you an overall 17,000 for Bargain Mart San Diego. Okay? So it's very, very easy to drag and drop and build your report as you need. Now what I'm going to do next is I'm going to show you how easy it is to look at this in a different form, like a graph form. So in order to do a graph or a chart or a pie chart or any sort of other view, as we call them, as they're all listed here in the view types, we're actually going to remove the pivot. We won't need to do that anymore. I'll use it like this, and we'll go down and look what's an available option. So the end user can decide this would be better presented graphically if I remove, let's say, profit percentage, because that would be very low numbers, and I'll just make this a very simple graph. So I'll do sales returns, and I'll do maybe profit. Let's go ahead and bring our profit, drag it and drop it here, and there you go. Now just to note, every time I drag and drop a field, you notice very quickly on the screen there's a loading that occurs. That loading that's occurring, it's pulling real-time data for you from your database. Now in the Sage 300 world, that could be your SAM Inc., SAM Ltd., or your personal Sage 300 database. But also what can happen is that you can have the databases consolidated, which is the case I have right now. I just wanted to explain that, but I'll get to that in a moment though. I'll show you an example of that. Going back to our view types, we'd like to do maybe this kind of report in a graphical representation. Let's remove the returns and just keep our sales and profits, okay? The numbers are pretty similar. The graph will look really great. Let's do a bar chart. And you simply get what you grouped by, right? So if I grouped by fiscal year, you'll see 2020 with two different bars. And each bar represents the two columns I have here. If you'd like to see the legend, you simply go to the properties and you bring up the legend. All right, there you go. So the orange is my legend, the blue is my sales, and you can drag your mouse over it, and you can see that the exact value of the sales done in that year, if it's not clear represented by the chart. Now we have different levels of grouping, so I can actually click on 2019 and drill down and see all the customer numbers that actually had sales in 2019. And then I can also click on this, one of my customers. In fact, if it's not easy to read this, we can simply do show me 5 on each page. So now we see that the Mr. Ronald Black sold the most out of all my customers. I click that and I get a breakdown by item number here. And finally, you click an item, you see which location they came from. Well, the item we sold to Ronald Black on 2019 came from the Seattle warehouse. Okay? So really simply, users can do that. And the ultimate goal of this is that you will build charts, but you ultimately want to put them in a dashboard. So in a dashboard, you're going to have a combination of different types of views, whether it's pie charts, bar charts, maps, gauges. You can have all kinds of different things, and I'll show you some that come out of the box immediately. So there's really, and each one of these has a ton of properties which we won't cover in the demo, but just take my word for it. You can actually change this around to any which way you want. That's more easy to read for your dashboards. So now we're going to go look, for example, at an inventory dashboard. So this inventory dashboard, and we have more, right? We have projects, AR, executive ones. We have some that I've made over demos I've done. But the point is that there's going to be an out-of-the-box list of dashboards given to you, but they're also very easy to make. As long as you set up your command center correctly, as long as you, let's say we created these gauges and we save our work, and we say sales history, gauges, demo, and we'll just click OK. I now have this new field here in my command center here called Sales History Gauges Demo. And what's really nice is that I never replaced Sales History. The original one is still intact. I didn't override anything, and your end users, because of security settings, will not be able to override each other's works unless you give them a very high administrative permissions. So now you see I'm opening my original sales history and the gauge one that we just made. So you see here I have them both. Nothing was lost. Now, in a dashboard here, we're looking at 4 different sections. The top sections is what we call the dynamic label, which is one of the different types of views. Then we have pie charts. We have 2 pie charts, and we have a worksheet at the bottom as well. We've also left the groupings here. So I can actually drill down and verify, it's very dynamic, the dashboard, so you don't lose the ability to drill down in any way. So you can drill down through different grouping levels and really find exactly what you're looking for. You can also have each part of the dashboard filter each other. So in this particular dashboard, I've made it so that these buttons or these dynamic labels filter the rest of my screen. So we'll just look and compare our Portland office and our Newark office numbers. So there you go. The Portland office is there, and there's the New Jersey. It's actually filtering the values just to show you the slice of each one in quantity and each one in total cost. So we can see that the New Jersey office, the cost is very low. However, the quantity on hand is very high. So that's a very efficient warehouse, for example. Okay? So there's all kinds of different dashboards, and we'll get to those later. Now, one thing the end user wants to do after they've created a dashboard or after they created a report or a view that they like, they want to be able to get this in an email form or distribute it to someone or do something in that manner. So what you can do without calling the IT department, you can simply right-click on any report, any view, anything, any dashboard, and say subscribe for distribution. So here we have subscribe for distribution, and I can say, give it a description. Well, this is just for a test. Would I like to export this and email this, or would I like to export and save it somewhere on the network at my company? You have both choices. If you select network, you'll have to give it the path that's available as a shared folder. What format do I want to export this in? We currently do PDF, HTML, and Excel format, okay? At the moment that the export is done, it goes and fetches the real-time data, and then it takes a snapshot. So after that moment, the exported file is actually a static file. So you can actually start sending it out of the company to somebody who doesn't even know what SCI is or even uses SCI, but they can get a status of this particular report. You can also put a subject and a body to the email. Now, if there's any part of any of your companies, if anybody works in multi-languages, you should know that every text field in the system can be translated in many different languages. You can add as many languages as you want. I always joke that you can add Klingon if you wish, if you're a Star Wars fan, but essentially you can do whatever you really need to do. So you type in English and French format, and if the user is a French user setting, they'll receive the email in French. Finally, the scheduling aspect. Really quickly, I'm going to go over this. You can schedule a daily, weekly, monthly. You can set it to expire. If, let's say, your manager tells you, hey, keep a close eye on this department for the next year, you keep a close eye on it. You say, send it to me weekly, every Thursday. I'm going to look at this at, let's say, 5 p.m. And I want it to be sent actually every bi-weekly. But then I really do want this to expire at the end of the year, because after that, I'm changing jobs anyway. So could be something like that. So you set it, you expire, you don't worry about that. It's no longer a responsibility. You can subscribe to it or unsubscribe to it at any given time. So again, it's really great that the end user is so empowered to do what they need to do, really without having to call the administrator at any point so far. The next thing I want to show you is that, well, that's great to schedule a report, but what you can also do is simply maybe you want this full report here. Let's drill down all the way, and I get all my records, all 274 records in my database, at least in my sales aspect. I can actually export this if I want. So going back to the File menu, I can click Export, and again, you see the three formats we were just talking about, PDF, HTML, Excel. You have a choice of XLS or XLSX for the newer users. This fourth one, I'll get to that in a moment. This one gives you, well, let me just explain it. It gives you a web link directly going to this report. And the difference with the fourth option is the external link, it uses a license and is actually real-time data. So if you don't want to have a login and go in and find your report each time, you can make an external link. It gives you a long web link, okay? Something that looks like this in my browser right up here. This kind of link here can be copy-pasted and placed in any frame, whether it's on your, intranet website, your homepage, internal homepage. So you can have a dashboard pop up on other applications if you wish on the landing page of your other applications. If you have a CRM software and you made some CRM dashboards, you can dump it into your CRM homepage as well. So that's what the external link is for. It's a very, very powerful tool as well. Okay, obviously we have all the printing options. You can do all kinds of different layouts and this and that. And each user can set their own user settings, their own date format if they wish, if you're a multinational corporation. A few things that are really neat up here as well is that you can obviously save your data, but remember, if you're not the owner of a view, you can't override someone's work. So that means the security levels are very high in the software. If I set a security level and I say, well, I don't want my user or Olivia's user to be able to see account number 4500 in my GLs because that's where the salary information is, I can actually set that up really easily through our security module. And if I do set up some sort of a restriction like that, it not only applies in the web interface, which is what we've looked at so far, but the other interfaces as well. So like your mobile interface and your Excel, SCI Excel add-in interface. So any settings like that will continuously be applied. As soon as you log in, the system knows who's logging in and what data they should be able to see. So that's all done through a very easy to use security module. I'm just going to quickly show it for those who are a bit curious if there's some IT or administrators in the audience today. So you got your users, you can dump them into different groups, you can make a finance group, you can make a sales group, you can make all kinds of different groups and manage everything at a group level, which is what we recommend. Then you can authorize, these are, my finance group shouldn't be able to see, sales numbers. Let's just put their finance processes available to them. And then when we do give them those access, maybe we want, finance managers and finance end users. So maybe we'd like to restrict certain accounts because they hold very private information or things like salary. The software itself allows you to set up all kinds of different settings. So you can see, just by looking at this screen, you see all the different check marks. You see managed security is just one of them, and these are all the different options that an end user can do, so we can enable or disable that for a specific role of users. Also, there's more in the process roles as well. So if you look at it, the security settings of the software is a very strong component, and you can rest assured that no data that shouldn't be seen by your user will not be seen. Okay? Now, what I'm going to show you next is that in the Sage 300 world, what's really common is that you have multiple Sage 300 databases because you operate under multiple companies. Now, of course, in the financial world or of course in the sales world, you will want to consolidate that together. Get your numbers aligned and really understand how are you doing overall health as a whole company. So what you want to do is either look at your data consolidated or by company. So my environment here, if we look at it, we have 3 different options at the bottom, and that's how we've set it up, and that's how it gets set up when we install it on your site. So you get SAM Inc. over here, you get SAM Ltd. And Consolidated, okay? Consolidated is a combination of these two. So right now we've been looking at Consolidated, and you can see the numbers are 114,000 and 52,000. Let's try to change this to SAM Ltd. only. You see the numbers drop, because now I'm only looking at one of my companies or one of my Sage 300 databases. So just like that, this entire list of out-of-the-box reports works for all 3 of your, or let's say all 20 of your Sage 300 databases, and you can consolidate them, which is really what, at the end of the day, is a powerful thing that you want to do when you build your statements, your financial statements. Okay, so within any view you're open, whether it's my inventory main board or my sales rep view or anything like that, you can see that I can change this here as well to SAM Ltd. And the numbers will change on the screen. You'll see they get much less high volume because it's one company at a time, and I can switch from one to the other. And when you do schedule this for yourself, what you can actually do is say, I want to receive this report twice, but once I want to receive it for SAM Inc. and once for SAM Ltd. So you get a PDF of each company separately, and you can do it a third time where you consolidate the 2. So you get 3 PDFs emailed to you at 5 p.m. on Thursday or every week, and you can say that you get different formats as well. And you can actually see the comparison separately and consolidated the numbers together. Okay? All right. So one more very powerful tool is that if you have you have your own customers that should receive some sort of a report that's generated in SEI, you can also schedule that. So not only can I send it to the admin user or the Nima user or the Olivia user because they're SEI created, but you can also say run as administrator and send it to, let's say, Olivia's Hotmail account, even though she's not even in the system, or your customer's account, email, right? So you can do things like that as well. So you can have that distributed once a week just to tell them, hey, you owe us, this much money, or vice versa. So the accounts receivable department would love that kind of stuff. There's also conditional emails. Don't shoot out the email if whatever condition is met. So hey, if they've surpassed their credit limit, send the email to our finance manager. We'd like to be aware of that. Otherwise, don't send the email. So you can schedule it. It'll look at the condition. If the condition's true, it'll shoot the email out. All right. So I know we're moving along really fast, and this is a lot of information. I'm going to move on to a simpler part of the application. This is the mobile interface. So let me bring that up here. I had to open it up earlier. There you go. First thing you'll notice on a mobile interface is that the buttons are a little bit bigger, the text is a little bit rounder, possibly easier to read on a tablet, right? Because you can access the mobile interface from your phone, you can access it from your tablets, Android, iPads, doesn't matter, any browser in the world. It's full HTML5 and fully compatible with all your devices. So we'll log in again as administrator, and you'll see that this interface doesn't have a ribbon at the top. We're not doing any admin work. We're not doing the administrative, managing security, managing the connections of the database and sources and things like that. What we have is our command center on the left and our different options here, whether it's our favorites, our dashboards, and the last thing I haven't shown you is the report designer. We'll get to that in a bit. So for example, we can go back to our sales analysis folder, open our sales history process, and you'll see, remember those gauges we just made, whether it was relevant or not? I guess it wasn't relevant, it didn't like that. Let me open up another one, sales history here. We can basically see that the data is pulled again in real time, and it's made a lot easier for the, finger touch kind of screen. So I can drill down into any of these and drill down to my fiscal period. There you go. Now it's the breakdown by fiscal period. I can drill down into month 5, and now I'll see every transaction in month 5 for the year 2019. Okay, so this is what the end users can see on their mobile devices. It's good because they can do this on when they're on the road, for example. You can make this interface. The only difference is that the web link that you go to is the same address with a different port. So port 82 goes to my mobile SEI, and port 81 goes to my web SEI. So I can easily make the port 82 public for outside. So anybody, your sales reps on the road, want to pull up a dashboard or something and show their own customers, they can do so much easier, really on an iPad or any device that they want. And you see the look and feels a little bit nicer too. It's still dynamic. You can click any of these buttons, but because it's full HTML5, it's a little bit easier on the eyes for that. We like to show the dashboards here as well. You don't lose a lot of those capabilities that you had before. You can still, export any sort of report, not the dashboards, unfortunately, in the web. In the mobile, but you can switch for SAM Inc., SAM Ltd. You can do all of that. It'll reload the page for you, and the numbers will be different according to what you selected. You also have the option to select to your language here, and also if you want to build an external link, copy that elsewhere, and so on and so forth. And that right there is pretty much what the mobile interface does. So we're going to go back now to the web. Excuse me. Now, I think Olivia mentioned you guys can put your questions in the chat box. If there's any urgent questions, you can actually ask right now as well, but we will continue on if you don't have any questions. Okay. All right, so what's important to note is that the main thing about this is that it's really easy to use and it's real time. And the way it's all set up and the power of the out-of-the-box template, what we offer is such a key because you hit the ground running with this software. So for example, we say we offer all these processes, but really we don't know what the processes are, but I can show you one of them just to show you how much work, optimizing, and connectivity we've set up so far, and in different categories, right? So whether you're particularly interested in order entry or you're particularly interested in sales or finance, you already have some sort of a process to work with. And here's what I'll show you is offered out of the box. It is these processes along with those views that we were looking at earlier. The process is going to look like Microsoft Access of old, where we had those tables, joins, you can see all the field names. This is really the back end of the database. So you will recognize some of these tables here. IC item is a very popular table in Sage 300 database. So we've done all the connections, we've made all the relevant joins, and down here we've done all the necessary formatting for all the fields we've brought in. So when we bring in sales, we've formatted it to bring in with 2 significant digits after the period. And so on and so forth. So all of that is a very, very setup for you. So really the end user can get up and running very quickly right after the initial training. In fact, it's so easy, the end user training is about 6 to 8 hours, depending if you get Excel add-in licenses. The other key point here is that what you really want to do is do filtering when you're looking at your data. That's also very easy to do. There's about 6 or 7 different ways to do filtering. I'll show you a couple of them real quickly. So I can drill down into this information. I could be like, I'm only interested to see data for period 1, 2, and 5. I haven't filtered on my year quite yet. So I'll just say filter by selection. And you see down here it says filter on fiscal period where equals 1, 2, or 5. So now my data, when it's summed up, it's only considering these 3 periods. Okay, we can continue on and do things like show me the prompts. The prompt is a feature of the software which allows you to, because you don't remember your customer codes by heart, the prompt allows you to search their description and then it'll filter on their codes. By good practice, you always filter on codes, customer codes, item codes or item numbers, location codes, and so on and so forth, so that there is no typos or mistakes done in the software. So here's a list of all my customer codes on the left, you see, 1200, 1500, 1600, so on and so forth. What I want to search for is where anywhere in the description it has the word marked. And there you go. I see that I actually have 3 of them here. Okay, it brings in all 6 because I have my consolidated environment, SAM Inc. and SAM Ltd. It doesn't matter. I'm really just trying to filter on these 3 particular customers. So I select the ones that I want holding the control button. I have a few options here. I can exclude them from the report. I can add this selection to whatever existing filter I have, or I can erase whatever filter that exists and just filter by these 3 categories. So we're going to try to add them first. So looking at the numbers here, yeah, so none of these 3 customers had any sales in 2020, and even in 2019, they only had $3,000 of sales. Now, if I drill down, you'll see we'll only see these customers here: 1010, 1100, 1100, or 1105. Those are your 2 customers here that you can see. So you can actually save this report now with this filter and say sales history for my March companies. Okay. So again, end users doing this very easily. They can also decide to put a selection page at the beginning. I'll show you what that is as well. So if you notice, some of these views that we open shows a selection page right at the front. The benefit of this is that if you're afraid you're going to load a whole history of data dating back to 2001, and you don't want to wait for the loading to complete and then filter, you can actually apply the filter beforehand before even opening this. So you can actually type this in. You can actually click the prompt button and do select your location of choice. So we'll select all, I don't know, we'll select 1, 2, and 4. There you go. So it puts it for you. I don't need to filter on a fiscal period or a customer. I'll just click OK. And there you see that my filter has been applied before I even opened the report, before I even loaded the data. It tells you how many records you have. You drill down, and this is only anything related to this information here. Okay? All right, so that's pretty much it for the web interface, what I wanted to show you. We will jump back to show one last feature called the Report Designer, but now I'd like to show you the Excel add-in real quick. So SCI has the web interface, the mobile interface, and the SCI Excel add-in. And this is what you're seeing on the screen. So it looks a lot like SI, Sage Intelligence possibly, with its own different abilities. So we have a lot of features up here, excluding this one right here. So everything from Formula Wizard all the way through environment configuration is considered the SCI Excel add-in. This can exist on your local computers as long as you can connect to the what we call the central point. It'll work and pull the information in real time for you. So some of these cells are actually showing these very complex formulas, but don't worry, these are actually done with a wizard called the Formula Wizard. What that means, every time you see NIC access, it means we're asking your Sage 300 database for real-time information each time we click refresh or enter. Okay, so what I'm going to do real quickly is I'm going to change my period here, and I'm going to show you this financial report, and it's going to start calculating for me. Okay, that was very quick. I think I had done that one before. We'll do period 5. It's going to calculate it real quick, and you can see the numbers are changing across the board. They're not only changing on this screen, but they're actually my parameters for my income statement, and they're my parameters for my trial balance and balance sheet. So this is an example of an Excel add-in report that's been built with SCI. Okay, now I can actually show you a few quick tools right now of how this actually all works together. I'll show you what a few of these features do, and you'll probably see some similarities with SI, but also some uniqueness from SCI. So anytime you want to pull a list, it's a good idea to use the data extraction. So it's going to ask you, what are you trying to pull here? You want to pull in, let's say, our GL accounts, for example, and we can decide if we want it to be the consolidated ones accounts. There may be an account that exists in one Sage 300 database and not the other, so maybe you want to show all the accounts, so you put consolidated, and now you say, well, what are you trying to bring in here? GL account number and the description. This is going to bring a list of all my account numbers and their descriptions. The only thing I want to do is make sure that the list is distinct and not repeating across the multiple environments or the multiple Sage 300 databases. I also wanted to show the header, the GL account number and the GL account description. So we'll click OK here. It'll take a second to load. And right there, what it did when it loaded, it looked in your database and brought this information. This is not a let's say, a data dump at a specific time. This is real time. So every time I open this Excel file beyond this point, it'll look at all the accounts. It'll look for if there's a new account between these two here. Let's say between 1200 and 1300, there's a new 1250 account with a new description. It will add it automatically for you. So the file is actually very dynamic, and very low maintenance is needed. We're going to do a quick example here. You know what? I'll just do posting or transactions. There you go. That's what I'm looking for. Transactions and ending balance. So here we're just using regular Excel function, typing in a field, using it as a title. I'm also going to make some parameters because after I build this trial balance, I really want to be able to look at 2019, maybe a specific period or a specific year. So I'll do period, year, maybe I can say, yeah, period, year. We can also put company. Let's put company as well. Company meaning your which Sage 300 database you want. We're going to highlight this here really simply. Again, any formatting you want to apply, it's really up to you. I'm just doing a quick example and just to show you the features. So what year we want to look at first? 2019. What period I want to look at? Let's say period 5. Which company? I don't remember exactly the code, so I'll actually use what we call the prompt. The same prompt that exists on the web interface exists in the Excel add-in interface as well. So we're going to quickly add a reference so that we can see our available prompts for us. We're going to call this GL, and I'm going to do this by account number right there. So now that I've added my reference, I can actually use the prompt feature. Oh, I think I have the other file open in the background. It's going to refresh. Let's give that a second. So it's going to go faster and faster as you see the loading. It's reloading my entire database again because I kind of asked it to in the new file, but the old file was open. So let's just give it a second to finish. All right, there you go. All done. I'll actually close this because we don't need it anymore. There you go. All right, so now we're going to click prompt. We're going to see our GL prompt. And what are we putting information here? We're putting what we call the consolidated company. So we have the choice, SAM Inc. or SAM Ltd. or both. We're going to bring in both. These are going to be used as parameters of my formulas that I'm about to create. Okay, so formula wizard. First we use the data extraction to get a list. Now the formula wizard is to get the amounts of each account. That's what the strength of the formula wizard is. I will click, which field do I want to pull in? I want to pull in what we call journal transaction amounts. And I also want to do a sum. Now, the thing about the opening balance that's really important, maybe I should have said this earlier, is that the opening balance is always the beginning of the year up until last month, right? So we do need the parameter for last month as well. So I'll say equals this minus 1. There, I have the period 4. I can actually, hide this for all I even care. It doesn't even need to be seen by the end users. But there's a value that's always minus 1 of the period here. Okay, so I'll go ahead and do formula wizard, and I'm actually going to use that for my opening balance. So we'll say GL transaction amount. We'll do a sum, and now we begin to filter our field. The cell E6 is going to pull a value from the database. You have to tell it what do you want to filter it on. We already know we want to filter on the parameters. I can type in 2019 here, or as a better practice, you just point to a cell that you reference here, so B1, and we'll do the same thing for fiscal period. But actually this one, like I said, it's the opening balance. So I'll say beginning of the year, 0, period 0, all the way through period 4. And then I also have my GL account number. So my GL account number is right here. I also have my consolidated company, which is also right here. So there you go. The filters have all been established. The one thing we would like to change, because what we're planning to do is copy this formula down across every account. So because I know I'm copying a formula in Excel, you have to remember to take off your $signs, otherwise it'll keep the account the same. You want the next cell to look at account 1020 and the next one to look at 1021. Make sure to remove the $sign, which is corresponding to the row. All right, and that looks like we're done. We're going to click OK. We got a value 0. There's no petty cash left in our database, so we'll just double click this, and there you have it. These are all real-time data pulled and the exact amount, combining the two different Sage 300 databases. Now, to Olivia's point, you do have to note that it doesn't stop there. You can actually add another data source of your choice. If you have another software, some Excel file sitting there, a legacy database somewhere, you can bring those in and start building them side by side seamlessly with SCI. So that's also a very important strength of it, but we're just going to cover the Sage 300 aspect of it. But just please note that you can connect to so many other data sources of your choice and analyze any sort of data in any of the three interfaces. Okay? Now that we've built the formula, we're going to copy it over. We don't have to redo everything from scratch. We do need to make a quick change here. Because we're pulling in current month transactions, I just need to change my period filter here and say, instead of pulling the beginning of the year to month 4, just pull period 5. And there you go. You copy that down, and those are my transactions for period 5. And now, because we're in the Excel world, you can actually do a simple Excel formula saying this plus this, and there you go. Copy this formula down, and there's your ending balance. And just like that, we've made a quick trial balance with parameters, with real-time data on the screen. Now, there's a few other things I'll quickly show you here. What's important to note is that SCI Excel add-in is probably the most powerful of the three interfaces because it combines everything Microsoft has developed for Excel, in addition to the connectivity and the neat features that come with SCI. So the combination of the two, in my opinion, makes the Excel add-in the most powerful interface. And obviously, when you're doing your financials, you really want the most flexibility for however you want your reports. So a lot of our customers, as Olivia mentioned earlier, use the Excel add-in. We've now created a web report designer which does also financial reports and things like that. So I'll show that in a moment. So let's say you want to change a parameter now. You can simply change this from month 5 to month 6, press enter, and you see right then and there it loads the database for you. You change it to month 7, it loads the database for you. Let's say you want to look at one company at a time, no problem. Just go back to your prompt, remove, let's say, Sam Ltd. Click OK, and look at the data, how it's going to shift. And there you have it. So clearly most of my data is under my Sam Ltd database. I'll change this to year 2020, and so on and so forth. You get the idea. Now, the strength of the formula wizard is that, yes, you make a formula, and yes, it pulls real time. But if a number looks a little strange to you, like your bank account corporate here, negative 5,000, that sends off alarms. So what you want to do is either right-click on it and say Formula Drill Down, or just select it and click Formula Drill Down, another feature of SCI. Now it drills down for period 5. As you can see the parameters here, we're looking at SAM Inc., we're looking at the year 2020, we're looking at it from period 0 to 6. I actually forgot to maybe change that. And we're looking at account number 1027. Now if I scroll all the way to the right, we're going to see each information, which journal detail was done, who bought this, who spent the money, where did each transaction come for this account. Now we're going to go all the way to the right. We're going to find our journal transaction amount. I'll highlight the entire column, and we'll see negative 5,356. So now you can actually look through these and see if there's one that really sticks out. There's a negative 2,000, and you can actually start analyzing it and go back to really investigate this in your Sage 300 world, or go back to the person who made the transaction. So the formula drill down is a key component. The other key component is the data extraction here. Maybe before I do that, I'll just save this here, because it will maybe take a second to load on the desktop. There you go. All right, so now this file, every time it opens, it will do a refresh. In fact, I did forget to say refresh on workbook open. There you go. Now, it'll always do a refresh of the data in real time. If, let's say, you were looking at your current period, it would always pull the latest data. So what you want to do now is maybe create a different sheet, but with the same information, but for a different period. And you don't want to do it individually each time. That's called the duplicator. Let's go ahead and put, let's leave it like this. And we're going to use what we call the duplicator here. We'll say GL, and we're duplicating based on fiscal period number. And it's found in this cell. And you click OK, and I want you to pay attention to the bottom of the screen here. And what it's going to do, it's going to replicate this report that you just created, one for each period in your database. So you see I have a tab now called 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on and so forth. And the parameter that's changing at the top left is your period. So right there, we did our trial balance for the full year using the duplicator. This is usually where I get some feedback like, oh, this is great, it's going to save us time, but I think you're on mute. So we're just going to continue. Finally, the last thing I would like to really show you, this data is real time. You can always at any point create a static copy if you want to share it with someone who doesn't have an SCI license, right? So you can create a static copy of the entire workbook or of the active sheet, and you can open the document right after you do that. We're going to call this static, and we're going to save it on the desktop. And you'll see now it opens this up. These are no longer formulas. These are no longer real-time formulas. These are no longer prompts. There's really nothing else you can do, but at least you're able to share the information very, very easily with your colleagues or with outside people as well. Other features are there as well. I'm going to stop in the Excel add-in right here, jump back to show you the new feature in version 7.2, which is called the Report Designer. The Report Designer that I'm about to show you is a new feature, just came out maybe a month ago, I would say. And how it works is, or what it's really used for, it's to bridge the gap between what we can do in the SCI web interface and what you can do in the SCI Excel add-in interface. So here we're going to load, we have a few financial examples. Here we're going to load, for example, an income statement, and this comes again out of the box, this particular income statement. But you might want to make your own modifications. You have your specific accounts that you want to exclude at any point. Very easy to do. Like I said, it's all about hitting the ground running, having something to work with as an end user, as opposed to starting from scratch. So here's the new Report Designer. It's a full HTML5 window. You can also copy the external link. You can export it to a link, paste it in any sort of program you wish on your end, and it'll show you real-time data. The real power of this is that you still have drill-down ability, but what you can do here that you couldn't do on the web before with the regular views is you can get totals in, let's say, revenue section of these accounts, and you can scroll down and you can see you have your expenses, and you want to do revenue minus, you want to do your revenue, 17,000, minus your 15,000 of your, for example, the section by section sum or operations between the two. These are called calculated sections right here. So that's the real strength. It's kind of like a dashboard, but for worksheets, mainly for worksheets, right? And you can scroll down and you can see everything. You also have the ability to do some modifications. I know it's not that visible, but I can do all kinds of color coordination. You can see that the first grouping is gray, the second grouping is white. I can change that information. I can make font colors, titles, logos, a lot of things that maybe before in the worksheet were a bit limited, but now you can do. The end user can still go ahead and export this to any format they want. They can print this out, they can email it directly, and they can also decide to do different filters. So they can change the existing filter if there is one, because again, this is no different than the worksheet you looked at. This is still being able to drill down the information here. So also all the filtering, all the exporting, all the printing still applies. And I know it's very subtle, but you see the different colors at the different grouping levels. You have a gray, a white, a blue, and just again, it's white. But you can set whatever you want. And this is the new Report Designer, and it comes out of the box for Sage 300 for the finance ones here. The final thing that I'm just going to talk about, but not really show, because there's a lot of data sometimes in sales tables and a lot of times in the finance tables. What we've done now is out of the box offer to you two data warehouse or cubes, OLAP cubes, one for finance, one for sales. And what this does is this is a very advanced logic that allows you to load your data even faster. But what it's doing is fetching the data every, refreshing the cube every 15 minutes or every 20 minutes, or up to you. You could go down to every minute if you wish. That may not be necessary, but a cube can be refreshed. The benefit is that it loads much quicker. So if ever you have a volume, high volumes that you anticipate being a much larger than usual, you can build a cube for any part of your software, any part of the Sage 300 world. We offer two of them out of the box. The ones we felt are the most important. We're obviously going to add more as time moves on. And speaking of time, I think that pretty much wraps up my portion. We're going to look and see if there are any questions here.
Yeah.
Thanks, Nima. That was fantastic. Now, everybody, I know he went through pretty quick. I think he can probably take a breath now. But We do have a couple of questions on the line. One of the questions, and I'll leave this for the Sage Enterprise guys to answer, but what is the licensing requirement for the web interface and external sharing versus LAN pack licensing? So I guess what we're looking for there is kind of what are the different licensing structures today with the product?
Do you mean from like a pricing standpoint, or do you mean?
No, I'm thinking he's probably looking for, well, I mean, it's concurrent licensing rather than named users, so it's very similar to your Sage 300 LAN pack licensing. But also, I guess, what are the different interfaces? So we have what the BI user, which includes that BI desktop, and the Excel user, and then you have the mobility user is an extra license. So there's really two license structures, I guess, is what we're going to get at.
Right, exactly. And then you have the distribution and the OLAP as well.
Right, yeah, but that's all included in, well, in sort of the packaging with the SCI. Hopefully that answers that. You know, Tyson, you can weigh in if you'd like, if that didn't answer your question. Another question that came up was how granular are user permissions? Can the user be restricted to only specific admin-generated reports?
Yes, so absolutely. For every report that's generated, any dashboard that's generated, what you get when you go save, when you click save or go to the properties, I'll show you in a second, you do a save here or a save as, for example, you decide who it's published for. And that could be a specific published for everyone, not published for anybody, as if it's a work in progress and you're not sure if you did the right groupings and pivots and things like that. And also you can do, for a specific user, you assign them, or a specific group, which is how we really recommend you handle that. So if you have an admin group, you create them in the security setting, call them admin group, add Travis, Olivia, Nima in there, they're the admins, and then we'll publish it for just the admins. So that it's very granular. I wish I had more time to show you, but you can take my word. It's extremely granular. You can hide the data that you see, how you see it. It's really, really a full security module.
Okay. So actually, that's a good question too, then, Nima. It's a security module that's separate from Sage 300 because you'll actually have, you could have different types of users as well, correct?
Yeah, that's right. It's its own security module. Some customers like to match it up as, you know, because you can do everything in SCI, so they like to match it up to their Sage 300 users. But again, it's not the same tool, so the security module it's its own standalone thing. You'd add your users, but one thing to mention here is if you're using Active Directory, I don't know if that's in the Sage 300, if it's a possibility, but SCI offers Active Directory users. So it's not like you have to remember a new password. You do set up your SCI users as Active Directory, and all they have to do when they log in is put their domain, or like let's say it's Sage, their domain, and then they put their login in the mornings that they always use, and the password of their Windows. So that's another benefit is the Active Directory.
Okay, excellent. Okay. We don't have any other questions at this point. We can pause. Is single sign-on possible using Active Directory users? Yes.
Single sign-on users, basically yes.
So yeah, they sign into the computer, they'd be able to just click in and click through to Sage Enterprise Intelligence.
Yes, exactly. Depending on what you're using, it's a little bit more complex than that. What software is being used, yeah, you can have the single sign-in, or the even better option is just to keep me signed in, and that will keep you signed in as well.
Right, right. But consuming a license the whole time you're signed in, so.
That's right. Anytime you have access to real-time data, it's consuming one license. But it could be one license in the web interface, not one license in the Excel, so vice versa, and things like that.
Okay, great. Any other questions from anybody? And I mean, you can always unmute yourselves as well, or use the chat box. I know Nima went over a lot of information and went over it quite quickly. We have recorded this, so you can always go back and refer to the recording. I'll give it to Rob, and he can send it out.
Yep, I'll definitely get it sent out to everybody.
Okay. Nothing really coming up yet. Well, I guess what we can do to close it off is really thank everybody for showing and taking an hour of your time today to take a look at Sage Enterprise Intelligence. If you have any other requests or you want to see something in a little more depth, let Rob know, and Rob will contact myself, and we will set up a personalized demonstration for you and go over the exact areas that you would like to check out. But again, thank you very much for viewing us, and leave it Olivia, Nima, do you have anything else to add?
No, just thanks for your time, I guess.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a nice day.
Thanks, guys.